my take on the America bombing Khomeini is that I would see it as a Christian crusade. I would say that America is going to bomb that barbarous, Stone Age, murderous death cultist until the people of his country are empowered enough to do what they want to do.
But it's not our job to start wars in the Middle East for other Middle Eastern countries. And this has been something Israel has wanted for at least 30 years. I've seen the footage of Netanyahu on repeat going through. Iran's going to have nukes in a matter of weeks. In 5 minutes' time. He's been saying this for 30 years.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fox and Father. With me, the Fox, and him, the
Father.
Look at that throw. Look at it. Look at it coming along.
Yeah, thanks. Takes its time, but it gets there eventually.
What about if I had Tourette's and I started going, N-word? And then everyone in Hollywood got upset. Would you be upset?
No.
What was that all about? Anyway, let's get onto that later. But I just thought about that because when I was scrolling through trying to find the questions, I saw that all the newspapers have deleted all of the articles about how offended the two actors were about the N-word being said at the BAFTA by the guy with Tourette's because they realised he had Tourette's. So
really?
I just noticed that was very laugh.
Poor guy. He took a lot of flack for that.
I know. It's hard enough walking around. But I mean, Tourette's does have it is quite, I mean, I think, obviously, who am I to question modern science, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, Tourette's does seem to be quite specific, doesn't it?
It is one of those ones that is, are you really?
The bit on there. But, God bless anyone with it. So how are you, dear boy, other than looking extremely afro?
Thank
and
you.
Very sexy.
I'm well. Having a very good Lent. As this goes out, this is the second Sunday of Lent. And I don't think we had... Oh, yeah, we recorded before Lent last week, didn't we? So we've had almost 2 weeks of Lent now. So getting used to the dietary restrictions, getting used to the lack of energy and all that stuff. And I was in Florida last week. And I was just trying to... Because there's so few pleasures we're allowed to have that aren't sinful, right? And I love good food and drink. Like, who doesn't? And so being restricted from that stuff is such a minor sacrifice, but you feel it a lot. You really do, because we're human. And I'm trying to find the joy in the other things. And being in Florida, we had a gala which started with a outdoor session, and we watched the Floridian sunset. And it was the biggest, reddest sun I've ever seen in my life. No hyperbole. It was gorgeous. And it's just one of those moments where you're reminded of the beauty of God's creation and trying to find the joy in those kind of things. It's the small things.
So that's interesting. So you miss, obviously I gave up cigars for Lent, so I just miss those. But
you say obviously, but last time we spoke on the podcast, I didn't know if you were going to give anything up because you were quite
yeah, I'm a bit, I don't want to, I try not to imitate other religions or,
Where do you think they got it from?
I know, exactly. There's that long conversation to be had. But yeah, I've never really been, maybe it's a nurture thing. I was never really raised in the give something up for Lent thing. But I did consider it once you raised it. And I do obviously know a lot of people who do give up stuff for Lent. So that is...
and you know what? While I was in Florida, so I had those two speaking engagements I spoke about last time. The evangelical one with Pastor Paula White and co, and the Catholic one with the traditionalist Latin Catholics. And actually, at the evangelical one, I'm sat around a lunch table, fancy lunch, golden silverware, as they call it everywhere. And it's people around me were also fasting. So we're all sat there at this fancy lunch, just drinking sparkling water, having a chat with each other. But it just reminded me that, never make presumptions. Because at the Catholic gala, pretty much everyone was feasting and drinking and, having a good time. And I'm
love the Catholics.
Right. But, it's important to remember that our tradition isn't always the most pious tradition. And there are, pious people throughout all traditions. And that evangelical conference did go really well. It wasn't an intervention for me being anti-Zionist.
Oh, good.
It was really good. No one mentioned Israel to me at all. Some people mentioned it on stage.
I'm not surprised.
Evangelicals love it, but Eric Metaxas, our good friend, was there. Had a good catch up with him. It was great, and then the Catholic Latin Mass conference was really, really good too. Lots of homesteaders, people talking about living off the earth again and building communities, literally like buying loads of land, some for you, some for your friends, some for your families, like being Christ-like together. It was great, really good, positive and encouraging.
Very good. I'm glad you get around. I'm glad you get to travel around. I was offered a film today in America that starts shooting really soon, and I don't have the appropriate visa to get there and film it, so it's really annoying. Well, not today. I got it offered it yesterday, and I was like, I could just sneak in and pretend I was like a tourist and accidentally end up on camera. And he was like, yeah, that'd be fine if it wasn't you, but it is, you'll get in trouble. So ever since my theatre, whatever they're called, disaster, lots of people have said, oh, I forgot you were an actor. Yeah.
God turns all bad things to good.
Yeah, I literally had them, I hate to, God, it sounds dreadful to say jinx because I don't really believe in jinxing, but I had the best week of my life last week.
Okay, go on.
It's really annoying because most of it I can't tell you about because most of it's really privileged and private, but on one level, there's an enormous check coming my way. Okay. Which I'm so looking forward to the media trying not to report on. So that's on one level.
Is this related to legal stuff?
Yeah. Okay. And then on another level, I've been thinking long and hard about what I want to do, how I can apply. I think I've spoken to you about this. This like, what's my purpose? What am I here to do? And thanks to my very sane and smart wife, she's like, well, it's written on the tin. It's what you've been doing all your life. So I had a very big, long and important meeting about that. And that's been resolved as well. So that was really good. And then, God, it's really annoying not being able to tell. I suppose you can, no, I better not.
Well, if you say anything,
I won't be going to prison. I won't be going to prison in the next month or so, which is also good. So it's been pretty much a winner for me in that one. Now, tell me something, and if I can think of a way of explaining it to you that isn't, sort of like that. Tell me something. What do you make of Gorton and Denton? Reform Party's 440th favourite seat in the UK, apparently. Now that they lost it.
Firstly, I like Nick Buckley. I think he's a great guy. He was a great candidate. His social media campaign was wonderful. But
not Nick Buckley, but this is Gorton and Denton. Oh, you're talking about Nick Buckley as in Ben Habib's Nick Buckley, who got less votes than the Monster Raving Loony Party. Uh-huh. Right, okay, go for it, yeah.
Didn't get many votes, bless him, so his message didn't hit people on the ground. However, Labour were demolished. The Greens really triumphed, and Reform took quite a few votes too, which shows me a few things. One is that Reform and Alliance didn't have a split vote. There's no split vote there at all. That's not an issue. So people going, oh, you're splitting the vote. That doesn't, no. The other thing is that there's a problem, massive sectarian problem. And even Sky News are willing, and I think the BBC are willing to talk about this now. They had the map, and they were like, here's Gorton on the left, all South Asian. Here's Denton on the right, all white British. And these guys are voting Greens. These guys are voting Reform. It's like we're voting down tribal lines now, or it's becoming more obvious that we've always voted down tribal lines. And the South Asian tribe won, which raises the question to me is, why are Asians allowed to vote in British elections in the first place? That seems counterintuitive. Doesn't seem to help British people in Britain very much. And why are the Greens puppets of the Mohammedans. That white woman who stood for them, who's like, I'm fasting too because they include me. And then when she won the election, she stood there with sausage rolls from Greggs. What are you doing? What are you actually?
She had a sausage roll.
Yeah, she stood there with bags of sausage rolls from Greggs the moment she won in celebration.
Well, what? So she only fasted until she won?
I don't know. I don't know if she actually fasted at all, but she's saying it because it makes her look inclusive and tolerant. Like, the Mohammedans have taken over. So let's hope that Denton doesn't become like Gordon. And I think it's a great shame. But it just shows that the people we need British patriots to wake up. And as far as I can see, there's only one clear option. Go on, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was interesting that I think she's, as my friend Jeffrey put it, he went, what a loss. Parliament's gain is plumbing's loss.
Right.
Because she pretended she was a plumber. I mean, apparently she was a plumber, this lady. But I think it's fascinating on one level that all of the political parties seem to run towards the centre. I mean, but just on a inshallah moment for myself, I got more votes in Uxbridge than the Conservative Party did in Gorton and Denton.
Wow.
So
no one mentions them, do they?
I got 770 votes or something, and the Conservative in Uxbridge, and the Tories got 716. And I then put this out as my thing, like, why did I not, why are people not celebrating my political victories? I think it's fascinating that everybody is, all the political parties that, the ones that are currently registered with the Electoral Commission rather than the ones that are coming down the tube, are dashing to the middle, dashing to the centre. And the parties that don't. So Labour have recently, I mean, this is all relative, obviously, and I'm not trying to pretend on any level that Labour are in any way a right-wing party, but they lurched slightly to the right over various things. We're going to be fiscally responsible, all the stuff that Labour said, and they were brutalised, and so were the Tories, so brutalised. So Labour didn't lurch to the centre. They've tried to sound, Rachel from Accounts has tried to sound like she cares about what's going on in the world. Farage is centrist rubbish that makes no sense. Doesn't seem to have landed in what you would have thought was a working class area. So the white woke, the white woke, for want of a better word, or the white working middle classes. Some of them voted for reform, but not all of them. It's only a 20% Muslim area. Only, he says, like that's just normal nowadays. And what did get voted for was extremism, essentially, which was hard leftism, total in, sort of childish economic madness that the Greens come up with, a really sort of utopian idealism that got voted for at length. And then what would have happened, I believe, if Rupert Lowe had stood there, I think he probably would have taken half of Reform's votes off them. I imagine, because actually, if it's a victory for socialists, the Islamic lobby constituency using socialism as a sort of wall to hide behind to come and try and steal our votes, steal our constituencies, then Reform's answer to that should have been as strong as we often are about this sort of thing. But there's an endless rush to the middle. I find, I mean, it's so disappointing. I just find, as I've said a million times, think Reform are the worst thing that has happened in British politics for a long period of time. And I liked the fact that it didn't land particularly. So you would have thought, you're going, yeah, exactly. There's on one side, you've got whichever one it is, Gorton, and the other one is Denton. I can't remember which one is the more heavily Islamic area and which one is the more white working class area. But if you would assume that at least 80% of the population in that community are indigenous native Brits. And yes, there's a university in the town. You would have thought that some of them would have voted for reform, but they didn't. And I think we're going to see this a lot. We're going to see the fact that reform are not going to land as much as people think they are. And what a shame, because the Conservative, no one voted for the Conservative Party. Literally no one voted for them, or Labour. So you would have thought there's a huge gap to walk into, and Reform won't walk into it. But we know why, and we've talked about it before. So that's my sort of take on it. The other take on it is, of course, immigrants are going to vote for the party that's going to take the money, give them as much free stuff, and transfer the wealth from the indigenous population to the immigrants as they can. Of course they are. And people are really upset about it. And I'm like, well, sorry, but if you give people, you make the lives of working people that difficult, and you make the lives of immigrants that easy, then of course they're going to vote for the people that are going to transfer the wealth from the pockets of the indigenous to the pockets of the immigrant. That's just logical. And
immigrants shouldn't be allowed to vote.
It's literally in the Islamic manual. You're literally commanded to do all of this stuff. So when British politicians sit there and talk about, tolerance, integration, I mean, everyone's is very excited about Esther Krauke on Newsnight talking about assimilation and integration. I'm like, it's not in the manual, babe. It's not in the manual. Sorry. So, yes, your point is valid, but Islam is not interested in integrating. It's interested in other stuff. On a side note, I had lunch with a powerful man on yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And he said to me, you shouldn't go at Islam so hard. And I said, why? And he said, because you should actually ask yourself the more important question, which is, who does which hard power, major world hard power, does the Islamification of Europe and Great Britain benefit? That was his question. And I thought, he said, does it benefit China? Does it benefit America? Does it benefit Russia? Who does it benefit? It may benefit Islam, but, that's not a hard power thing. Islam politically is not as powerful as China, Russia, or America. So he said, you should really think about that. And I thought that was an interesting point. So that's what I make of Gorton and Denton. What do you think? Do you think Rupert will... I had I don't want to disclose private conversations, but, I warned Ben Habib of all of this stuff as well. And I said, this is what will happen. And it did.
I think Ben Habib needs to, we like Ben. He's a nice guy, but he needs to have his conversations with Rupert in private. All of this tweeting publicly is not good. Advance, I call them alliance earlier, didn't I? I mean, Advance don't have a shot, really. There's no recognition. There's no momentum.
They're dead.
There's some good people there, but those people need to be subsumed into Restore Britain. Restore Britain is, as far as I can see, the biggest patriotic movement going in the country. And if they are officially a party, they're going to get a lot of votes. And so if you want to make a difference in the country, you've got to really kind of somehow join up with them.
Yeah. And Elon's going to back them, isn't he, financially as well? So it's going to... And so if Reform are not doing amazingly, without the threat of an actual patriotic not right wing, I don't even think it's right wing. I just think it's common sense. I don't like I think it's a good versus, we've talked about that a million times too, but it's a good versus evil thing. And Rupert is right about the stuff that Farage is wrong about. So imagine Restore sticking up candidates. And then imagine the Conservatives somewhere must be sat going, why is no one voting for us at all, ever? Now, and they're a really long established political party in this country. So you would have thought someone in the Conservative Party will be thinking, what's the next move, chaps? Because we're literally going to not exist in 3 or 4 years' time.
I
So it'd
don't
be
think it's that
interesting.
much self-awareness. I think they're still so entitled. They expect to be in power again. And so I don't think they've repented enough of all the sins that they've put on our country for the last 20 years. I honestly don't think they're woken up to the fact that they are a dead party unless they change something. They seem to be continuing as is. The tweets from the leader of the party today exemplify that. They're going to continue until they eradicate themselves.
The leader of the Conservative Party is giving a speech on Monday, I'm told, this coming Monday. And yeah, I've anyway, I can't talk about that either. But
no one's even addressing the Conservatives. When you look at the polls, everyone's like, "This is how badly Labour have done. Look, here's the Greens versus Reform. How did Ben Habib do? How would Rupert Lowe do?" No one's even mentioning the Conservatives. That's how irrelevant they are now.
I know, but is there not? What my point is not whether they're relevant or irrelevant. It's more that there is quite a large gap to walk through, and even if the Conservatives didn't believe it, for the sake of blob unity, you would have thought they would try and blob their way through that gap and start talking about things that we care about, like the complete.
Yeah, they don't get it though, do they?
Well, if they don't get it, I'm somewhat. Michael Gove, much as I really don't like what he thinks or anything like that, he's not stupid. He's a smart, intelligent guy, right? I don't agree with what he says, but he's not stupid. He must be staring at it going, this is game over. I mean, we're literally staring at game over. And someone at some point must be saying, guys, what are we going to talk about? Because we are the official opposition. I mean, I know that whatever his name is, Sadiq. No, what's his name? What's that guy in Reform called? The guy
Zia Yusuf.
Yeah, Zia Yusuf. Sorry, I always go straight to Sadiq. Zia Yusuf is got his little sign saying "Shadow Home Secretary." But the Conservatives do actually have a front bench aid thing, donations, all of that stuff. So I don't think they're going to want to be completely wiped out. At some point, someone's going to have to turn around and go, you do realise it's like game over, chaps, unless we come up with some Conservative stuff. But we'll have to see whether you may well be right that they just don't. They don't care. But
they think they're doing everything right. They're just continuing as they were. They really don't understand how far they've fallen from the public eye.
Well, they must do, though, because they got 714 votes.
Yeah, but it takes it's a gift they don't seem to have.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, so I think we're sort of roughly on the same page with that. I think it's incredible to import a voter base, and then promise the voter base you're going to steal the money off of the taxpayer, hardworking taxpayer, and give it to you in benefits. I mean, how to kill a country? It's pure treason on almost every level. It's treason, and it was done by the Conservatives and Labour, but. The Conservatives certainly continued Labour's job of selling our country to the lowest bidder, and we deserve everything that's coming, really. And it's so sad that reform is so unbelievably dreadful that we don't even have a political alternative because everyone's got to make Nigel Farage feel better. And, as I think you've said, Dan Wootton said, others have said, I've said, those that have fallen foul of the GB News machine, this Paul Marshall top to bottom. What do they call it in that show, The VP or something with Alec Baldwin, vertical integration? You buy all the offices of power and all the media in between and try and sell it to people. And it's not worked. So selling Farage in Gordon and Denton and selling Alan Partridge, also known as Matt Goodwin, in Gordon, and it didn't work.
He got thrown to the bus, didn't he? As soon as he lost, David Bull was out there as the chairman of Reform saying, I didn't like what he said anyway. He's off track. Wow. Way to be loyal to your campaigners, just as they're loyal to everyone else.
And he worked really hard. And David Bull, essentially, to me, is a hairdresser. Like, if that guy is in charge of anything, he's not, I wouldn't put him down on my list of great minds who I'd like to share dinner with. Defo not. This is not an intelligent man. This is a man who spend his money jigging. Oh, don't say any libelous. I'm Reform are very litigious. So, they won't. I've noticed they are very litigious. They like to hurt their enemies, and even more, they like to hurt their friends.
Hmm.
So, okay, that's Gordon and Denton. More of the same, do you think, across the country? Do you think people understand do you think people understand the scale of the sectarian problem in the UK?
I do. I think most Brits, most working class Brits, have understood this for a long time, and the metropolitan types are just waking up to it now. And this has been a wake up call to a lot of them because they're going to be out of power. The Labour intelligentsia, the people at the Guardian and Sky News and the BBC, they're all like, "Whoa, we're done." And it's not even the Conservatives who we can apply the same old pressure on by calling them racists and xenophobes and bigots and all that stuff. It's the Greens who are taking over. What are we going to do? And so we'll see the narrative shift around there. Whether they'll attack the Greens or try and get in bed with the Greens so they can continue their soft power, who knows? But the Greens and the Mohammedans are certainly gaining ground, and we need a patriotic movement. And thank God.
What do the Greens and the Mohammedans have in common? Just out of interest, because the Greens are all very much be yourself, LGBTQ plus, etc.
Yeah.
They also, they're very, very, I think you'd struggle to find a Green who wasn't very pro gay marriage and all that stuff. And sometimes there's a MP who pops up on my timeline, a Mohammedan MP, who comes on my timeline and he says things. One minute he says things that I think absolutely couldn't disagree with him more, and the next minute I'm agreeing with him with everything he says.
Shahir Ali.
So I don't know who it is, but
he's the co-leader of the Greens. He was a reasonable guy. But what do they have in common? Not much. Like, they are puppets of the Mohammedans. The Mohammedans are using them. It's a scratch your back, scratch my back situation. They know that if they support the Green Party and they'll get their, the imams tell the men to vote on behalf of their women and they all vote as a block vote. If they get their vote aligned, they'll get certain things in return. And so the Greens will give the Mohammedans what they want. The Mohammedans don't give a damn about what the Greens are doing, their silly gay policies. They probably hate them as much as we do, but they get something out of them.
Well, they'd probably hate them more than we do, actually, wouldn't they? Because, Farage's gamble is to say that he's going to get the votes of the socially conservative Muslims. That's his gamble. And that's not going to work because they do, as you quite rightly point out, they vote as a bloc and they vote for whoever's going to give them the most money.
And it's the thing that people often say, like, they're socially conservative Mohammedans too. We should get them in, and we should all work together on these socially conservative issues. But they forget the fundamental difference in that we are conserving a Christian nation. Mohammedan doesn't want to conserve a Christian nation. They want to impose their ideology on top of our faith. And so there is no working together. Yes, they may also be against abortion, but as we've discussed in the past, they don't abort their children. And so it's not an issue to them. They may also be against trans. They don't trans their children. None of the issues that we're battling matter to them. In fact, it's helpful to them if we continue to kill ourselves off.
So maybe the link is quite deep, which is that, I know it's not a term you like, but I'm just going to use it for, the convenience of the conversation, Judeo-Christian values, which are the ideas of the sanctity of the individual life. The fact that I'm not talking, just don't get up with my terminology. Just let me get the point.
Terminology.
Okay. All right, Christian.
Christian values.
Yeah. So the Christian value, the great sort of backstop of the Christian worldview is that every single human life is sacred and each one matters. And so that breeds individualism, essentially, in this, and the way that, if you look at them, so if you apply the same rules to both, you say that Islam is an ideology and Christianity is an ideology. Even though I'm saying this for the sake of argument rather than for the fact that it's real. Okay. That one of the smartest things about Christianity in its relation to its deity is it says you're a fallen, weak person. You will never achieve the perfection of God, but by saying that, there is a perfection which you'll never achieve, and you can only ever work towards that. So therefore, major issues within the self, the nation state, and all that they're completely separate from God's mercy and justice is what you're seeking to achieve, and it's why, therefore, Christians can live as minorities in countries very easily. Christians can. It's our major problem, actually, but we can. Whereas in Islam, Islam looks at the individual in the same way as socialism looks at the individual,
Right.
which is like you're like a piece of property, and if we have to kill 45,000 of you to get what we want, so be it. And socialism is the same thing. So maybe the link is not just convenient; it is actually ideologically correlated. They have the same. They
Right.
actually do have the same worldview. Is what I'm saying. Rather, it might not, which
So they're
is
both
quite frightening.
because Marxists are collectivists and Islamists are collectivists as well.
I think that's what I'm saying. Do you reckon?
Yeah, somewhat. There's somewhat an element of that truth in that. Christians are more individualist, but we're not actually individualist. But we're more on the slant of that direction compared to the Marxists and the Mohammedans. Absolutely. But we do need to find a bit more collectivism within our culture too. That's the thing that lets us down, in that they will vote as a bloc. We don't vote as a bloc. If Christians all voted as a bloc, we'd have a Christian country. Same in Britain as in America. Like, if we all got our act together and voted Christian for Christian policies, for Christian people, we'd be in a much better position. But we're also individualistic. And the fact that the Mohammedans vote however their imam tells them to, I don't suggest we'd go that far, but the idea that the head of the household has a vote and each people within the household don't undermine that person's vote helps society, helps that family. It comes back down to it. The husband and father, as the head of the house, should be the one going out to vote. And he should have a conversation with his wife and the mother of his children, and even a conversation with his children if they're old enough to be included. But they should vote as a family. The fact that we live in a society
where men
are voting one way and women are voting another way, and they're undermining their husbands, actually vote because women are more empathetic and more emotive, emotionally intelligent, and they're compassionate. They want everyone to be included. So they're voting against the family's interests for the stranger's interests quite often. Whereas men are more pragmatic because they're built to provide and protect. They vote for the family and for the nation first. And so we should put it back to men as husbands, as landowners, as taxpayers, as fathers voting for the household, and women should stop voting, really.
But isn't that, aren't you then sort of campaigning for the Islamic way of doing things?
Yes, that's where I started out by saying we need to find more collectivism in our way of thinking, because that's how they are winning, but it's also good and rightly ordered. Not to be entirely collectivist, but also not to be entirely individualistic. As a communitarian, as a Christian worldview, we believe that we are individuals. We all have that sovereignty. God has sovereignty, but we all have that because we're made in the image of God. But we are still part of a community, and we have a collective responsibility to our family, to our parish, to our nation. And if we voted in that way, our nations would be in better positions.
Yeah. I mean, I can see so many things that I disagree with you about. I disagree with you a lot about things, but I always find what you think interesting, which ultimately is where you want to be in life. You want to go, oh yeah, no, I agree with that. What you say, don't agree with that. What you say, but I like that. Yeah. That's obvious. I've always said on our conversations, some of my best relationships I have in the world are with people I don't agree with about everything, and actually I cherish our disagreement. Speaking of which, Donald.
Did you want to do the Epstein thing first?
Oh yeah, because we don't want to really get upset with each other yet, do we?
I'm not going to get upset. Prince Andrew has been arrested and released, and Peter Mandelson was arrested and released on bail. So we had two high-profile arrests as a direct result of the Epstein files in Britain, not in America so far, which is shocking. We've seen the head of the WEF step down. Some major CEOs have had to step down too.
Swedish politician tried to stop himself.
Right.
I think.
And so people are feeling the pressure.
You don't try and top yourself. You're not worried about your phone search history, do you? You kind of talk that one away. The only time you're ever going to try and top yourself is I mean, who am I to say? But it's
Yeah.
it doesn't look great if you're. So the Epstein files help me with this. So it kind of went away. Dan Bongino went to the Secret Service. He was banging on about it forever. He went to Secret Service. He then left the Secret Service. There was a bit of a like hoo-ha. I know it's Secret Service and it's not the actual FBI and stuff. But the Epstein files are now coming back with a bit of a vengeance, aren't they? So our own ambassador to the United States, that nasty, in my opinion, that nasty little demon, Mandelson, has been arrested. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested. What on earth do they have on these people?
Well,
would you? Can you put the word allegedly so that we don't get killed by YouTube?
I think Dan Bongino was a deputy director of the FBI, and I think people are upset with him because I've been on his show a lot of times, and I've always found him to be a good warrior for the truth. And his whole thing was, we're going to get these Epstein files out. If I was in power, I'd do things differently. And he got into power. And I remember him saying something about, I've just seen something that's changed my whole worldview. This things are darker than you think. This is before the Epstein files. The Epstein files get released. Before that, he's like, oh no, Epstein killed himself. I absolutely know it. I've seen it. Definitely. The Epstein files get released and we see the footage and there's still massive doubt and ambiguity around that. And then he resigns and goes back to podcasting. And so I think, people are giving him a real hard time, but I think his whole world has been rocked. He's seen more darkness, more evil than any human being should ever see, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And I think he's probably had direct, if not implied, threats against his family. And so he's probably doing what's best for his family by stepping back from it all and just wiping his hands of it. Whether it's the right thing to do or not, none of us are in his shoes. I like to think if we were in his shoes, we'd go double down, go hell for leather, get our family somewhere safe and just get the truth out there and arrest these horrible pedophiles and whatever they are. But we're not in that position, so it's difficult for us to say. So I don't think he should be given such a hard time. But some decent pressure is good because at the end of the day, the FBI has done nothing. They haven't arrested a single high-profile co-collaborator, co-conspirator. These are pedophiles, murderers, cannibals, for goodness sake, Satanists, child sacrifice. The darkness is unspeakable.
Well, also, exactly what is the opposite of God? Worshipping God. And if the world is the dominion of the devil, which it is, then why wouldn't you sacrifice children and do all the stuff that these people do? The number of, I can't remember the exact number now, but it's a lot of kids that just vanished during the Biden open borders policy. It's hundreds of thousands of young, innocent kids who were moved.
Tim Hooman about that. I've asked people in the current administration about that. What are you going to do about this? Was it 300,000 children or 30,000 children?
Yeah. I think it was over. I think it's 400,000. But someone will fact check me.
And they've said, we don't know. We're struggling we don't know how to, they've gone. They slipped through the net by design. The system was and designed so that these kids could be just absconded and abducted and whatever they've happened to them. So they don't know what to do about it. That's the saddest, darkest thing.
Well, you don't know what to do. Well, the thing about the devil, and I think it's one of the reasons why people are very reluctant. It's sorry to drag us back to Farage for a minute, but their greatest fear over at Reform HQ is being called a racist. And I think in the current world that we live in, one should actually embrace their terminology to say, if you calling me a racist means that I stand up for protecting children, then that's a good. You've now, obviously in the olden days, racist used to mean something else, but language derivates and it moves through. So maybe we should reclaim that word and say, oh, okay, so if that's what it means to you, then I'm 100% I am.
I keep saying that this is the truth, that all these words that they use as an attack, racist, Islamophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, anti-Semitic, it doesn't matter which one they use. You use any of these words against you, they're essentially saying you do not fit into the secular, atheist, liberal consensus that we subscribe to, therefore we're going to attack you. So these words should mean nothing. They do mean nothing now. We should be able to just shrug them off and be like, actually, if you're calling me these words, it's a good thing because I'm a Christian. I subscribe to the Christian worldview, the Christian truth, Christian values, which are other than the world's values. And if you see me as other than, that's a good thing. That is not a negative. That's a positive. The world shouldn't like you. If the atheist, secularist, or even Satanist world likes you, you're not Christian enough. That's the truth.
Yeah, I'm sort of there. I'm of the view that people have absolutely no idea what would turn on. See, this is the thing. The way I look at it is from a kind of sort of nihilistic. So I like to put myself in the worldview of the nihilists. So I go, if I was someone who had no faith, and like, what would I believe? And I would go, well, I'd believe in power. I'd believe in worldly authority over other people. And I would believe in abusing that power to remind me that it existed. So corruption of the soul would be one of my goals if I was not a faithful person. I would think, what can I do to corrupt my soul? Because ultimately, like it or not, doing bad things, sin, is part of the human condition. But I would also say that to these people, it's probably one of their godheads. So
yeah,
of
I think it's
course,
simpler than that. I don't think it's a case of how can I corrupt my soul. It's how can I get enjoyment out of as much things as possible in this worldly plane, but also how do I hang on to the things that I have? So you find they want to live forever, or they want to stay young forever, or they want to keep all their money, or they want to get more money. They want to hold on to things, and that's what a lot of this corruption comes from. Like the adrenochrome.
You can't hold on to any of it because they
know if this is their worldview, this is all they have. They don't have the afterlife. They don't have heaven. They don't believe in God, so they don't have any of that stuff. They want all the things they've got now, which is why the youth fountain is their ideal, whether it's through transhumanism or adrenochrome. They're always seeking to cling on to what they've got here, and this is why they're the corrupt money situation with the people who've allegedly made loads of profit off 9/11 because either they knew about it beforehand or they shorted it afterwards. Doesn't matter. Like making money out of evil situations like that. These people don't care because they're all about the here and now. They have no idea of the consequence of the after or the to come. That's part of our job as Christians, to introduce them to the fact that we are going to live forever. We have eternity. And so the things we have here and now are not actually important. And we need to be preparing ourselves for the afterlife because we make a choice of whether we want to go to heaven or hell.
I also shout out to the person on Lewis who did an episode on adrenochrome years ago. There's an episode about adrenochrome where they sacrifice the organs. I think it's called Life Born of Fire or something like that. I can't remember, but it was a Lewis episode. So shout out to them. But that it again, to me, even if you're and I've made this point before as well, which is like, it's not, you're going to face oblivion, and for a believer that's eternity, and for a Muslim that is as well, whatever, and they have to do their bit to go and face their own eternity. But for a Christian, you're facing eternity and you're facing judgment, you're facing all that stuff, and you're going to be judged by the good you do in your life, not the evil you do in your life. It just it strikes me as so weird that people are secular, because I'm just like, well, why would you live your life knowing that all the bad that we can do to each other? Why would you live your life believing that subsuming yourself to your most darkest whims is going to be in any way good? I've got a family member who's about to die, and they are not a believer in anything other than themselves. And I speak to one of my other family members who's speaking to them as they're going through this process of dying. And the denial is so fascinating. It's so interesting that everything is just the denial of what's coming, which is oblivion. I mean, it's just so irrational to me. And I'm so logical. I just find irrational thinking. I'm happy to entertain it, but I just think, well, that's just stupid. Why would you head towards death constantly insisting that life has no meaning. So your meaning comes from the fact that life doesn't have any. And it's like, you've just lived an entire life. You've fathered many, many children. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you, in your moment of the ultimate weakness and the truth behind your mortality, why would you face up to the oblivion in that way? I just find it so sad for people like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good question to end that on.
Well, let's talk about something lighthearted then.
So I woke up this morning to the news that we're at war. The US has struck Iran, and I found this out on Instagram, never mind X, which is baffling to me that I'm getting news through Insta. But just to put this into perspective, a lot of people voted for President Donald J. Trump to be the no-war president, the no new wars president, the peacetime president, the only president in modern US history who would not start any new wars. He's already kidnapped a president of another country. Okay, people found ways to justify that. And now we're talking about a preemptive strike on another nation that is not a threat to this nation. This is a war for Israel, not for America. And American soldiers are the ones whose lives are being risked. This is not America first. This is Israel first. And it's disgraceful. And to see people who think they're patriots and or think they're conservatives supporting this, only a neocon could support this. This is not something America First or a patriot or a conservative could support. It's really, really bad. It's shameful. And Christians aren't allowed to support this kind of war. There's a theology called just war theology of the kinds of wars that Christians are allowed to back, mostly in defense of your nation and your family. To preempt, to start a war, that is never allowed under Christianity.
Tell me what you really think. Let's start with Maduro. So what was the reasoning behind, because I'm very open to your thinking on this, well, actually, weirdly. Talk me through why they nicked Maduro.
I don't know. But it's just like they
just flew in there, blasted them with a load of American technology and nicked a president from another country. I mean, he's a horrible bastard.
It looks like they did it as a test to see what they could do when they finally go into Iran. And the Ayatollah, as we're recording, the Ayatollah has been killed.
Has he?
So the leader of Iran has been...
thoughts and prayers with his six-year-old wives.
But let me put this out there as well, because more than one thing can be true at any given time. The Ayatollah, his regime, the Mohammedans, they are evil. Islam is evil. Islamism of Iran is evil. The regime is evil. All these things are true. However, it's not our job to go around the world killing people we think are evil, because eventually that means we end up evil. It's not that that's not our job at all. And so people are like, but they're bad guys. Yes, and they're not a threat to us, and they're bad guys in their own country. And if the Iranian Christians want to take back the country, or the former regime, the royal family wants to take it back, that's something they could consider. If they want to approach us about helping them, that's something they consider. But it's not our job to start wars in the Middle East for other Middle Eastern countries. And this has been something Israel has wanted for at least 30 years. I've seen the footage of Netanyahu on repeat going through. Iran's going to have nukes in a matter of weeks. In 5 minutes' time. He's been saying this for 30 years. And of course, it's never come true. But there is a country in the Middle East that does have nukes. Israel, because they stole the technology from America, which is something that no one ever talks about. No country in the Middle East should have nukes. It's a volatile part of the world that is constantly at war. It's hardly ever at peace. They shouldn't have nukes there. So if we're going to peace, it should be Israel.
I was speaking to an Indian bloke the other day who said, and we were talking about, I was expressing my concerns about the way I will be treated by the officers of state in this country because of my views on Islam. And he said, your views on Islam pale into comparison to a Hindu's views on Islam, for example. So, if you're going to, I'm going to do what I always do, which is just offer you a devil's advocate position.
Right.
Why should India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons? And who should have nuclear weapons? I don't want
Pakistan to have nuclear. I think Pakistan
who should have nuclear weapons?
Because people often say Pakistan's technically an ally. I mean, they're not formally an ally, but they're a state we work with quite often. Pakistan festers more terrorism than anywhere else in the world outside of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a major threat to our country, as is Pakistan. not directly, as in they're not going to start a war with us, but they send so many extremists our way that Pakistan is a major issue. I do not like that country.
So why should they have nukes?
I'm saying they shouldn't.
All right. So why should we have
I don't want
nukes?
Israel to have nukes. I don't want Iran to have nukes. I certainly don't want Pakistan or Afghanistan to have nukes.
Well, Afghanistan's never going to have nukes. They're too busy like subjugating their women because they're so insecure about their deity and his golden horse. What about? But why should we have nukes then? Are we morally superior to these people?
When we were a Christian nation, we were morally superior. Yes. The
So
question
you would take Christian nationalism all the way to saying that you can't.
Like when we won World War II, the suggestion was that we would hold on to these things as these mass weapons of destruction, as a preventative, as a deterrent, but we prevent other nations from building them because we don't want to go into a nuclear war.
But we didn't. We didn't stop other nations from building them.
But that was the idea. That was the principle.
But it didn't work. So by the time America did its last nuclear test, and they were testing the hydrogen bomb, these things were multiple factors of the power of the Hiroshima bomb, reminding ourselves again that the only nation on earth which has ever used one of these weapons is America.
Indeed. So and they're not going with Iran just to take out their nukes. That's also a lie.
They're going to Iran.
What about North Korea? What about Russia? They're not going to countries that are hostile to us to take out nukes, are they? That's not the answer, really.
Well, I think they're on. I hate to say it, but we talk about one world order and the Uniparty and stuff. I'm not going to be entirely convinced that there isn't a high-end conversation going on between people like Russia and China and America, which is going, as long as we maintain this sort of tri-factor separation of power, then it doesn't matter who messes around with everything else. To me, my take on the America bombing Khomeini is that I would see it as a Christian crusade. I would say that America is going to bomb that barbarous, Stone Age, murderous death cultist until the people of his country are empowered enough to do what they want to do. So they're going to weaken the power. The power structure. I agree with you.
But there's 2 points to that, Lawrence. One is that's not Christian crusade. Christian crusade is defensive. When the Mohammedans were taking over the West,
you can't tell me that.
The second thing,
riding out a bunch of knights into Jerusalem.
Let me finish, because the second thing is that to say, okay, we'll bomb them and then let the people take over, that never works. When has that worked? Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran. Like, when has that ever worked? It causes civil war. It causes people fighting against each other for years and years. And what actually happens is the angry, displaced Mohammedans come to us. They come and seek refuge in Great Britain and America. And our countries get filled with these people that hate us because we've gone and attacked their lands. That's what actually happens.
Yeah, I think there's a very, very strong argument, which I'm entirely sympathetic to for that. On the other hand, I would say that there are no boots on the ground at the moment. Everyone hates Khomeini. Everyone hates anyone who's got a shred of decency in them would say that the Mohammedan death cult is possibly the biggest existential threat to Christian thinking, and the stuff that we spoke about earlier about the fact that we're not collectivists, they are, all that.
So do you support taking out the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar?
Well, I don't want to get into a position where I have to defend it. I just want to talk about it. So because I do want to talk about it. I would say that when you're dealing with places like Dubai and the Emirates and all of this sort of stuff, you're not really dealing with theocratic societies. You're dealing with faux theocratic societies in the same way as Britain is a faux Christian society. You're dealing with people that have got a load of money. So money is the ultimate corrupter in that thing. When Donald Trump says they're not sending their best, he means it, right? It's not that they're sending their. I understand that all the people in charge of Dubai and the many princedoms and all the sheikdoms and all this sort of stuff, and I get it. They're protected from their own, from the death cult by money. They have enough money to live in a civilized way. Iran was not a Mohammedan country. It was not a Mohammedan country. It
Mhm.
wasn't. And therefore, your views on Israel, which are totally fine and you can have them, would it not benefit the Middle East for the people of Iran to return Iran to the Iranians? And if America's view is that blowing up, some death cultist to give them the best chance of doing it, because how many times have they tried it in the last decade? And how many young women have been shot in the street by these, the other thing
The
that's
people of
interesting.
North Korea want to take North Korea back. Should we go and bomb North Korea too? Like, it doesn't work that way.
No,
It's
because
not
they
a
got a
fight.
nuclear weapon. So
But
North
it's not
Korea
the
can,
argument Iran does too, right?
well, not anymore, they don't.
The, I mean, the argument
So,
is it doesn't.
the North Korean, it takes 28 minutes to end the world. So it takes, from the first missile launched, or the first thing, it's 28 minutes and the whole world is dead. And if you're not, you would pray to be dead if you survived that. Okay. So the stakes are very high. We can agree on that. I am an absolute non-interventionist. I was very much against the Iraq War. I'm very much against all
Do you see any
anyone
similarity
trying.
between this one and the Iraq one?
No, I don't, because I see that I think that what America and the West, in their hubris, tried to do back in the day was to say democratic societies are the way. We're going to give you the opportunity to be a democratic society, right? But now what I think Trump is trying to do, which is a little bit different. Like, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just offering it up as a point of view. Is that what Trump is trying to do? Is he's going, I will weaken them so you guys can take over, and all of your internal wars and all of your internal warlord faction fighting that's going to take place in this nation, which is going to happen, especially if they kill the Ayatollah. That's not on our hands. So it seems to me to be slightly
Okay, so two
consistent with
questions
the
there.
America First
Two questions
position.
that are: one, why is it America's job to do that, even if that's the case? And
Well,
secondly,
I can answer you
has
with
it
your own
not been?
words.
Secondly, has it not been that Israel has been pushing for this war in Iran for a long time because of the Greater Israel Project, that they want to have that image of Israel, which is on the IDF flag.
Who does
It
it benefit?
carves out part of Iran and Libya and other countries, other countries around Israel that they want to expand. They have an imperialist colonial attitude, which people can be for or against if they want to be for or against it, which is fine. But is it not their bidding that America's doing?
I don't know. I'm not. I'm not in the room, but I imagine that America, as an economy which is vastly outsizes Israel's, and so does China, and so does Russia. So I'd
But
say
how does
that
America
I
benefit?
absolutely do think, and this is where we do agree. I think that it's not fair. It's not a fair game to give Israel all of the weapons to do whatever they want. But then I am also sympathetic to the fact that loads of Jews have been killed in the world many times. There have been many pogroms. So
Loads
I'm
of all
very
people. I don't understand that argument.
well, but I don't think it's about Israel. I think it's got anything to do with Israel. I think it's got to do with the fact that you look at Iran
Literally,
in
Netanyahu
night.
turns up at the White House,
No,
says we're going to attack Iran, and then America attacks Iran. It's like, how could it not be about Israel?
but why? How? In what world does Netanyahu turn around and tell the president of the most powerful country on earth what to do? He's not
That's the most
Jew.
important question you've asked all day, and that's the question I want the viewers to ask.
Okay, so my take on it is that you're absolutely right. We should not involve ourselves in other people's problems so that they send their angry and pissed off people from their own diaspora but over to us. I agree with that. I'm not. You're pushing an open door with that one. The way that the Iraq war was fought, the way that the first and second Iraq war was fought, and Afghanistan, all these campaigns, they were fought not just to get rid of Osama bin Laden. That was an excuse, and I get it. They were fought to try and say, we're going to put a trans flag up over the University of
Not
Kabul.
always. Look at
Because,
Saddam Hussein. This is a great one that we've seen from the Epstein files. They wanted the reasons behind this is mostly monetary and political. It's not actually about the people or helping them. They got rid of Saddam Hussein. They got rid of Osama bin Laden for their own ends. And this is things we've seen from the released files from the FBI and the CIA, from the Epstein files. And so, I'll answer your question, why would America do Israel's bidding just because Netanyahu, whatever his fake name is, asks? Well, the question is, I don't know, but it is clear that he has. And so the question should be asked, is there more in the Epstein files where Jeffrey Epstein was clearly, we know this now, working on behalf of Israel, working as whether Mossad and CIA or just Mossad, we don't know, but it was clear working on their behalf as a honeypot and a financial advisor and more. So is there something they have on Trump or his administration that is making them act this way? Or is it something to do with the attempted assassination? Is it them saying, look, we can get to you whenever we want. We almost killed you. We killed Charlie Kirk. We can kill your family. Is it the fact that the president's daughter is married to one of them? She has a handler who she's married to, for goodness sake. I don't know. I don't know how deep it goes, but the question needs to be answered.
well, but maybe it doesn't need to be answered. It needs to be asked.
Yeah.
Which is what you're doing, and I absolutely think that's rigorous. For what it's worth, my view is that it's very difficult to hold a conservative position without supporting Israel, and it is.
Why? What's conservative about supporting a foreign country when conservatism is about supporting your own country?
Because the mass murder of Jews, the mass murder of any group of people, I wouldn't advocate.
Is it conservative? Is it conservative to
you asked me a question. Do you want me to answer it? The mass murder of any people based on something like faith is an anti-conservative position. It's a very collectivist position. It's like, we're going to bully this smaller group and we're going to kill and murder them.
Are you talking about the Gazans?
It can be anybody.
Well, then how is it not conservative to be in support of Gaza? Like, your argument doesn't stand up.
No, but it is. I have no beef with Gazan people, like none. I think what has been done to the Gazan people is appalling.
But you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't say to be conservative.
No,
Israel is a nation that is off the Gaza as 85% of Gaza.
Hang on.
Pick one.
Well, no. Look at the nuance, because nuance is important.
Okay,
the grey area is important. So, if you're looking at what we, Britain, this great country that we're so proud of, did to Dresden.
Monstrous.
It's unforgivable, but understandable in a way. So I would as utterly condemn the way that Israel has dealt with Gaza and the carpet, the destruction of Gaza and those poor innocent people, as I would Britain's firebombing of Dresden.
Okay, so then why, as a British conservative or American conservative, must you support Israel?
Because
Holocaust.
Because I think. No, not because Holocaust. Absolutely not because Holocaust.
Because
no. That's not the point I'm making. It's more subtle than that, which is that, here's my just recommendation, because I think we should have a culture corner in this show as well, like they did in Toby and James's show before they quit. But I really, really recommend people go and watch the Judgment at Nuremberg, the 1961 Abbey Man film. It's an absolutely stunning film about the introduction of what's called international law. And we're seeing across the media platforms today, this is a violation of international law. There's no such thing as international law. It doesn't exist. It's a misnomer. It's like Islamophobia. It doesn't mean anything. So I would say, back to the Bible, that he is who is without sin cast the first stone. And
this is not non-sequitur unless it's coming to a point.
Okay. So
I want to know why conservatives in Britain or conservatives in America should support Israel. I get why conservatives in Israel should support Israel. Why should I support Israel?
I don't think you're right, but you're the one that brought Israel into it. I
No,
didn't
you
mention
said, I
Israel.
don't see how a conservative cannot support Israel. A conservative should
I,
support Israel.
I
don't
don't.
think that's true.
I think you fall down the trap of the leftist trap, which is like pick on the smallest minority and bully the shit out of them, which is what's happening here
So
in
you
England
think we
with
should
white
support them
people.
because there's all minority and they're getting bullied? That's that victimhood mentality of the woke. Like, we must all support the trans movement
I'm
because
not.
they're minority and they're getting bullied.
That's not how I operate.
Who's bullying the Jewish people? If anything, Israel is bullying
Dude,
the Gaza
on the
people.
seventh
If anything, Israel
on the
is
seventh of
bullying Iran.
October,
Who's bullying them?
on the 7th of October, they walked across the border and they massacred a load of people who supported them, leftist Jews.
Which was absolutely disgusting and horrendous.
It's
But these
horrendous. Unarmed people. That's not a fight. That's not a fight. That's not what a conservative.
Get 20 hours of people walking in over the border. How does that happen?
I don't know, but I don't want to do. Okay. Where does the rabbit hole end, Calv? Because either things are real.
Forget the rabbit hole. It comes down to it. British people should support Britain first. American people should support America first. There's no interest in either of our nations in Israel. No interest there whatsoever. And we're not obliged to support Israel. And there's nothing conservative about supporting Israel.
Why are you talking about Israel when he's bombing Iran?
Because you made a point that so many people say, but they have no way to back it up. It's almost a belief. It's almost.
Well, I have backed it up. I backed it up quite solidly.
I haven't heard anything to back it up, other than they're a minority that are bullied. And like, I'm saying, where are they a minority? We're not a minority in Israel. Like, we're a minority in most British cities now. And where are they being bullied? Who are they being bullied by? They do whatever they want without any accountability.
Okay. That's a legitimate criticism of Israel. That's totally fine with me.
But I don't care. People love Israel or hate Israel.
It's not to do with Israel.
People love it or hate it. That's fine.
It's not got to do with Israel. It's about going.
I'm not obliged to support it as a conservative.
It's fine. And I'm not telling you what you do have to think. Iran was not a country where people walked around wearing bin bags. It wasn't.
It was a Christian country. I know.
Yeah. So if someone wants to throw a few bombs at them because you can argue the merits and good sides and upsides and downsides of that for sure, but I will not weep over Ayatollah Khomeini and him and the Islamic death cult that has taken over a country and immiserated people for 60 years. I will not weep for them. I won't force it.
Over them, but it's not a just war. It's not something Christians can support.
No, I don't think. Well, I mean, what is a just war ultimately? I mean, it's this thing. You get back into the whole idea of love your enemy, and you know what loving your enemy is. Can you love your enemy and kill your enemy? I don't know. I mean, who knows?
It's a theology, but if someone's attacking your land, you are allowed to kill them in defense of your land. If someone's attacking your family, you're allowed to kill them in defense of your family.
But he's not doing that, is he? He's doing something very different.
Stop. What you're not allowed to do is go over and stop bombing them when they're not attacking you and they're no direct threat to you. That is something entirely different to just war.
Yeah, no, I think logically speaking, you're absolutely right. I am not. I just sit there and I go, you know what? This is very different from the Iraq campaign. It's very different from the Afghanistan campaign. This is people with like Maduro. Interesting, that thing of like, how did they get Maduro? Did he just run nick the president of a country? It's like incredible. Why didn't he just go and nick the president of? Why didn't he go nick the Ayatollah? This is someone throwing a load of bombs and going, right, guys, you do your own regime change. And I'm sure that all of the American interests and Jewish interests, as you're saying, will be very, very heavily invested in what goes on. But Iran was not a Jewish country. It wasn't. It was a Christian country, as you said. So what's Israel got to do with any of it? Oh, no. The face is on. Anyway, well, look, we didn't shout at each other. I thought we'd shout at each other over this, which is good.
Yeah,
I thought I'd get annoyed with you because I was like, because
you've been told from school that you must love Israel, and so when people challenge.
No, don't say that. That's very patronising. I've got my own brain. No,
we all have our own brain, but we're all susceptible to propaganda and indoctrination. If we don't believe that, then we're putting ourselves above.
I'm not, I will never, ever, and I will just refuse to do this because it's a waste of my time. I will not go down the path of Holocaust denial and any of that stuff. I just won't do it. And the reason,
Holocaust denial?
Well, you have.
When?
To me.
What do you mean? When?
On one of these podcasts. You're like, how many died? Was that this? You know,
But that's interesting that it's a matter of faith because it's propaganda and indoctrination. It's one thing I won't question. I won't have that. That right there is a matter of faith. Can't be disrupted. Can't be disturbed. You can question how many people died in Armenia, whether there was a genocide. You can question how many Poles died in World War II. Was it 6 million?
You can question how many Christians massacred Muslims in Srebrenica.
Any questions about the Holocaust because it's a matter of faith.
Okay, but what about Srebrenica?
Say this is the greatest of all evils in the world ever, and that's a problem that people need to think through.
Okay, well, we should also have a problem with the fact that Christians murder Muslims, innocent Muslims, for no reason.
Anyone murdering anyone should be a problem. Absolutely, yes, I agree.
100%. So this is where I have a problem with the sort of false equivalency of I know that Jesus Christ died for all of our sins, Muslims and Christians. He died for all of our sins, every single person. Yes, he did. And therefore, one has to be circumspect about that and go, we are as capable as the wrongs as the Jews are, as the Muslims are, and all that sort of stuff. But what you look at is the ideology. You stare the ideology in the face and you query and you question it. And a critical thinking person will turn around and say, Islam is not a religion. It's an ideology. It's been imposed on what was a formerly quite secular Christian area of Persia and very profitable place. And if you're going to instigate regime change, remove Israel from this question, if you're going to do that, the best way to do that is without putting a single American soldier on the ground, which they won't do. You're right that people will be displaced as a result of this, but they will be displaced as a result of the internal politics of their own country, not a result of America's. They will be the secondary effects of what America's actions are. They won't be the primary effects of it. You know that's true.
So you've also just said that any critical thinking person should be able to question things. And you started out this conversation just a moment ago by saying there's one area I will not question. So I'm not going to ask you to question it. I'm not going to answer any questions. I'm not going to put anything out there other than think through that one. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way. I mean that for all of our viewers too, because there's one topic in the world or in the West that we're not questioning. We're not allowed to be critical thinkers of. And we've got to ask ourselves why.
Which is the Holocaust.
Let's some questions from the viewers.
Oh, Calvin. All right. Go.
Deborah O'Brien. This one's been fished out for us by Harrison. Deborah O'Brien says, for Calvin, if an immigrant family came to your church for shelter, would you let them in? I would let anyone into my church. What a silly question. The church is here for sinners. We're all sinners. The church is here for all of us. Would I help someone abscond the law if they enter the country legally? Of course not. I wouldn't help them be illegal. I wouldn't do that. Of course not. That's a silly thing to think. But if someone's seeking shelter in the church, they're always welcome. What do you think, Lawrence?
I wouldn't go to your church if I was an illegal. That's what I think.
I think
I'd go to someone in San Francisco who's like, yeah, here, have some free food and money and a mobile phone and a nice apartment. That's where I'd go. I wouldn't go to you. You'd be like, repent of your sins.
Union Foregone says, should public figures step back immediately when facing investigation or wait for outcomes? What do you think?
That's a good question. No. We should live by the premise of you're innocent till proven guilty.
But if you're, for example, Prime Minister and you're accused of being part of the Pakistani and Mohammedan rape gangs, should you step back and let the investigation?
Well, if you're innocent, then what are you worried about?
Okay, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Crows 45 says, do repeated scandals involving elites permanently damage trust, or do voters eventually move on? Sadly, I think voters eventually move on, and that's why we're having. Well, one of the reasons we're having this Iran situation and lots of other big scandals happening, because people want us to move on from the Epstein files, and we should not move on until we see lots of high-profile arrests. These demonic pedophiles need to be arrested.
Yeah, there's something interesting about human nature when it comes to change. So people know that they want change. They don't really know what form it takes. So if Farage or someone like that says, change, I'm bringing change. All of these parties say the establishment are attacking us. We're being attacked by the establishment. The Greens said it, Reform said it, and they criticize the establishment. ultimately, they're just part of the same problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a misnomer. It's lazy thinking, and I don't like bad thinking. I like good thinking. I mean, you think I don't because you think I've
No,
not
I
thought
don't think
through
you
what
don't.
we thought.
You are a good critical thinker, but I just think we all have these mental blocks. We all have these areas that we're not able to because we've all been, through the schooling system, and we've all had things shoved down our throats. And so,
It's not the schooling system that taught me that, and I think, yeah. I was told throughout the schooling system that we're going to run out of petrol in 20 years. And I knew that was. Oh, by the way, quick side point. Someone I read the other day, it was a really good thing, and it just came up on some feed of mine. It said the fossil fuels thing is a massive lie. The center of the earth creates all of this stuff, the gas, the oil. It's created from the core of the earth. It's not rotting dinosaurs. It's just made by the center of the earth, and it's giving us life. It's like the Duracell battery, the permanent thing that the greenies want to go on about. That all of this stuff is a never-ending source of energy, and all the carbon dioxide does is make us greener and happier. Anyway, that's a side point.
I'm going to give my Fox and Father follows this week to Carrie Prejean Boller, and her @ on X is Carrie, Carrie, Prejean, Prejean1, and she's been standing up hard for the Catholic faith against the Zionists who've been trying to take her down. She almost got removed, or she possibly has been removed from the Religious Liberties Committee, ironically, but she's standing her own ground and doing a very good job of it.
Okay, my Fox and Father follows goes to Dr. Philip. I mean, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Kisley.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember Dr. Philip.
Yeah, Dr. Philip Kisley and Charlie Sampson for being a sane people. I also quite like Nuke the Lab and Informed Consent. I do follow a lot of these people that agree with you, Carl, and I do listen to it.
Charlie Sampson's a good lad, and Dr. Philip, I remember being interviewed by him back in the day. He's always a very well-dressed gentleman.
Yeah, he is. Well, we managed to get through without setting fire to each other's hair, which is a good thing.
Of course. I love hearing you.
No, I know, and I love hearing yours too. And I think it's important that, and I do think about what you say when it switches off, and I hope that's true for the viewers as well. That when it switches off, I do go away and I think, well, yeah, do I think that? I do. I think it's good to. I'm not shut off.
Yeah, I know.
I'm shut off to certain dead ends, and they are dead ends in the same way as listening to being tempted by the devil is a dead end. So there are certain dead ends that I don't know.
Herzl Institute drinking water.
Look at you.
Let it never be said that I hate the Jews. I'm drinking from their water.
I'm going to teach my son. I'm going to go after this to teach my son, who, by the way, has the most amazing singing voice. I can't tell you. Yeah. So when we had Lizzie's birthday in the thing the other day, in the building, which is very nearly constructed, I'm very nearly not going to have to wear wellies to walk out my front door.
Right.
He got on their karaoke machine. I think I bored everyone with this last week because Lizzie did many karaoke's, and his voice is so beautiful. So I'm going to take my guitar and I'm going to play I Want You Back, Jackson 5, and I'm gonna record. We're gonna record a version. I'm gonna get my stepdaughter and my son to sing and record a version. I'm gonna mix a version of them singing that, and I might try and release it and make millions of pounds without their consent.
I love that.
Yeah, bring it on.
I'll recommend one more thing to our viewers. Listen to Michael Jackson's "They Don't Care About Us," the original lyrics, before his record company had them changed. Shall I pray us out?
Okay. Yes, please.
Today is the second Sunday of Lent as this goes out. So I figured I'm going to start doing the prayer as this goes out rather than the day that we're recording. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, who sees that we have no power of ourselves to help ourselves, keep us both outwardly in our bodies and inwardly in our souls, that we may be defended from all adversities which may happen to the body, and from all evil thoughts which may assault and hurt the soul. Through Jesus Christ, thy Son, our Lord, who liveth and reigneth with thee in the unity of the Holy Spirit, ever one God, world without end. Amen.
Amen. That's a good one. That was a good one. I prefer that one to the Dear Lord, it is the festival of Saint Ignatius of Corinth.
Okay, now Lawrence, it's your turn to pray for us.
All right. Dear God, please look after all of their people who follow us, allow them to feel heard, give them their voice, and allow the change that we need to see to exist within them. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Love you, man.
You too, brother. That was a good chat.
Good.
See you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.